Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jacksmillo, and a very special welcome to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. Opposition spokesman on energy, Philip Pollard, triggered a national debate when he last week called for Prime Minister Andrea Holness to immediately remove from her position Mrs. Carolyn Warren, the managing director of National Energy Solutions Limited. That organization used to be called the Rural Electrification Program. Now, he said that was necessary because of the discovery that she was convicted on drug charges. Since then, it's become clear that much of the public sentiment has been with Mrs. Warren, not with Mr. Paulwell, especially since it emerged that that conviction was some 20 years ago. A lot of people have said that a conviction so long ago should not be held against someone. It's also focused attention on the question of rehabilitation. When should someone convicted of a crime be considered to have been rehabilitated? Should all convictions be capable of being expunged from your criminal record? And are there some jobs that should just be out of your reach if you've been convicted of certain crimes, no matter how long ago? And what about the issue of disclosure? Should you be required to disclose previous convictions, and for how long? Well, earlier this afternoon, I spoke to Mr. Paulwell, who triggered all the discussion. He said he was unable to be here this evening because of an out-of-town engagement. Mr. Pollard, lots of controversy following your statement in relation to Carolyn Warren and her conviction some years ago for drug trafficking in regard to her position as managing director of the National Energy Solutions Limited. There are a lot of people who feel that this was mean-spirited, to use Jamaican parlance, bad mind, and that something that happened such a long time ago should not be held against someone. Some days after this statement and seeing all the reaction, your view on that?
Yes, well, you know, it is not my style to appear or to be mean-spirited. So it was never the intention on my part. In fact, I have made comments to salute her for the fact that she's been able to turn her life around. What I was really trying to get at was a real system of employment that has been a feature of the ministry for the last 2 years. In fact, at the time when I saw this issue with her, we were looking at 6 CEOs who have been terminated since 2016. And in particular, her predecessor, who got the job just prior to the elections of 2011. So I inherited him. And even when people were questioning why would I keep somebody like that on, I said to myself and to my team, we need to ensure that we give the person the benefit of the doubt and let us see how well he works. And he worked very well, but because of that, it seemed as if people thought he was too loyal to the last regime. And so he was really discarded in a very, I think, scandalous manner. My record in relation to rehabilitation is quite clear. Before I got into politics, I was a member of Brothers Keeper, a body headed by Yvonne McCullough. And our role was to try to see how we could work with prisoners at Gun Court, Tower Hill, and elsewhere, Tower Street, to get them rehabilitated so that they could come back out of prisons to become active members of the society. In fact, one of my members of my constituency executive is a former death row prisoner, because I do fervently believe that persons must be given a second opportunity. So I salute Mrs. Warren.
And yet all that seems to go against everything you've said.
Yes, it might have been harsh, and that I really regret. But I believe, though,
what exactly do you regret?
I regret that it might have caused her pain, because I don't like that. It's not
but you must have contemplated that when you put out the statement.
Well, you know, what was on my mind was how to ensure that we don't have a system in government where persons are discarded just because it appears that they have certain loyalties, that they have worked hard with one regime. And the way she was brought into the system, I thought, was really unfortunate.
This statement, though, echoes nothing in terms of what you've just said.
Yes.
This is all about the fact that she had a previous conviction. She occupies a role in government. She needs to be immediately relieved of her position, and you go on through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 statements saying much of that. So there is no sense in the statement you put out of the recognition of the role of rehabilitation, of the
Yes.
recognition of the role of the passage of time.
Yes, and I concede that it was harsh. What I think we need to deal with is this issue of
Was it a
rehabilitation.
mistake? Was it a mistake,
It was harsh. I think I have a responsibility to highlight these issues because, you know, there are people in my own constituency who have gone through prison sentences, conviction.
And your predecessor in your constituency, Marjorie Taylor.
And cannot get an opportunity. And I believe that it provides for us now this opportunity for us to look at this issue as a real issue in the society, and probably there's need for legislation to make it clear as to what types of conviction can be excused.
Well, there is under the Criminal Records Act.
Right, and how far up in the system can people be employed after conviction. I don't believe that there should be limitations, really. I don't believe that. Once you have served your time and you have proven yourself to be a wholesome member of the society.
Should there be limitations on the offences, for instance? Because I mentioned the Criminal Records Act, which allows for expunging of some types of convictions, not all,
Yes.
not very serious convictions. Do you think that there should be no limit on that as well?
Yes, I fervently believe that there shouldn't be any limit.
Murder?
Even there, because I don't believe in the death penalty, I don't accept that. I have a difficulty. Recently, under my own government, we were able to deal with the ganja convictions. But even the way to get those expunged, I find too cumbersome for the ordinary person because it is not automatic. So I believe that there should be a period of time after which there should be automatic expungement.
Should there not, though? Well, let's look at those two issues quickly. One, the issue of so you think no matter how serious the offense, it's possible for people to entirely turn their lives around, and the
Yes.
record should be able to reflect that.
Absolutely. That is my view. When I became a member of Brothers Keeper, it was that view that propelled me into that organization, and I still abide by that.
So what about, though, other types of offences people tend to view a little differently? Sexual offences, for instance, if you're convicted of rape, if you're convicted
Yes.
of abuse of a child.
Yes, well, yeah, those are difficult because I'm now appreciating from the psychologists that those pedophiles tend not to be easily rehabilitated. And so those persons, I believe, ought to be watched. I don't believe that everybody should be denied opportunities to become economic and contributing members of the society. But there are those sexual offenses, I think, I might relent a bit on my overall position that everybody should be given a second chance.
So you think it's an up time then? Because I know the Justice Minister has been saying he wants to see the Criminal Records Act, Rehabilitation of Offenders Act reformed. He has a very liberal view,
Yes.
somewhat akin to what you've just expressed. Is it time then for Parliament to take another look at the Act?
Yes, and I'll be quite happy now being caught in this issue to propose and to assist in leading this way forward. I do believe that too many in our society have been marginalized, have not been given a fair deal after having had some unfortunate experiences in their earlier lives.
Are there some positions, though, to which people should never be allowed to occupy if you've had certain convictions? If you've had convictions for, as in this case, drug trafficking, if you would have convictions for serious fraud, are there some positions, whether in government or private sector, that should be denied
Yes,
you?
it is my view that people, all of us, become victims of situations, circumstances, and that we can all overcome those situations and rise above them. So I don't believe that there is anybody who is irredeemable, not at all. I believe that everybody should be given a second chance. That is my fervent view, even though you might not see it in that press release, but that has been my fervent position all these many years in public life.
So is it then that it was politics driving this statement about Caroline Warren, or is it politics that's now driving your, what sounds like backpedaling, given the tremendous negative backlash against you in particular?
Well, bear in mind, though, that people do believe that there should have been some revelation of this.
Some disclosure. A lot of people have
yes,
said that, and I
yes.
believe Ms. Warren has apologized for not
Yes.
disclosing.
Right, and that's fair. No, I believe the initial release came about after I heard how the previous managing director was treated in such a way that I thought was unbecoming of any administration.
So you take somebody else for a she?
And no ill meant for Ms. Warren. In fact, I continue to commend her on the way she has been able to turn around her situation. And we are going to see her later on in the committee, and you will see that my disposition towards her will be the same, very respectful and saluting somebody who has been able to turn around their life.
I'm puzzled though, because if, as you're saying, your concern was the way in which the former MD was treated, why not focus on that? Why drag her into the situation at all?
And probably that's where the mistake is, or has been.
So you're admitting there is a mistake?
I think it could have been less harsh, of course.
Have you been advised to come out and put on sackcloth and ashes, Mr. Paulwell? Because it almost sounds like that.
This is me. I have been in public life for many years. I have been through the hits and everything else, so I know what it is to feel pressured in public, and I didn't want that to happen to her, and if it has, then I regret that.
Have you personally apologized?
I'll be seeing her today for the first time since then, and I always believe that it is important to have one-on-one conversation to clear up issues that might arise.
Do you withdraw the call you made here for her to be immediately relieved of the post?
Yes, because I think it requires more than that. I think we need to probe further whether or not the board itself had mismanaged the situation, did not do their proper due diligence. And so I'm not going to be focusing on her. I'm going to look at the system just to make sure that we can get it right in the future.
And in relation to this practice, I beg your pardon, of some employers of asking, do you have previous convictions? Do you think that is a fair question?
I think it's a fair and reasonable question. I think it should be stated, but it shouldn't be used against the person.
Isn't it inevitable though? Because why would I be asking you that question if not to figure out, hold on, this person has had a conviction for X, Y, or Z, you know, something, let me move on to the next application.
Yeah. No, I think proximity in time. So, for example, in her situation, it's over 2 decades, so that could be taken into account. But I think the proper course is to have full disclosure at all times.